Things we bury rarely stay in the earth. The traumas of our past can be placed 6 feet under with concrete poured over the top, but sooner or later, the seed will sprout. The dandelion will grow up and break the slab. The evidence and effects of that trauma will find a way to make itself known. Symbols gain their power through collective focus. One image that is tattooed on our minds is that of a graveyard, a place to bury things, to hide away the dead. When we walk among the headstones, we are surrounded by history. But rather than remaining in the past, the legacy of all that came before still affects the present, even if that history goes unseen beneath the earth, the headstone being the only evidence of its existence. Symbolically speaking, the casket and its contents represent the things we bury in our minds. The headstone, a symbol of how things we bury shoot up and affect our day-to-day lives. Bad things can be placed in the ground, things we wish to forget about, to ignore because it is too terrible to think about. Ford Cruller attempted to hide things inside his own mental graveyard, digging a tomb that plummets deep into his head, the tomb of the Sharkophagus. Earlier on in this series, we discussed each of the levels associated with Ford. Each of them included negative memories and emotions that he lost access to. The linked aspects of his head found in Ford's follicles, Strike City, and Cruller's correspondence were thrown down here and covered with a thick layer of dirt. Raz enters the graveyard to find Ford with a shovel. Now that the shards of his mind are pieced together again and the threat of Maligula's return demands it, he will have to dig up the trauma, to comb through the headstones and find the thing he wishes could remain buried. Emotional avoidance can be an easy way to hide away the things that scar us. However, it would be more appropriate to say that we are the ones hiding in those situations. Another phrase for this is avoidance cluster behavior, which is performed in response to PTSD symptoms. It is characterized as an attempt to avoid distressing memories, thoughts, or feelings. This includes the avoidance of external reminders of the traumatic event, such as people, conversations, or locations that bring the event to mind. Remember, the law of associations can link traumatic memories to things that seemingly have nothing to do with them, but they are chained together in some abstract way. Going along with the graveyard theme that Ford constructed, avoidance is akin to burying the trauma in the earth, suppressing or repressing it so that it is out of sight. But it doesn't get rid of it entirely. The thing becomes a shade that follows us every step we take, a wraith that haunts us in little or small ways, even if we don't recognize it consciously. As described with avoidance cluster behavior, we will unconsciously push back against anything that accidentally makes us think of the trauma we buried. As mentioned in Cruller's correspondence, emotions are automated. Being forced to confront something that has a strong emotional charge can trigger a flight, fight, or freeze response, whether that be directly as with the person or subject matter, or indirectly through the law of associations like a restaurant or a physical location. Ford buried a lot down into his mental tomb, things he didn't want to remember or to feel. Avoidance is in essence a flight response when confronted with the emotion he didn't want to have, the regret over not sending a letter, believing he could have saved the soul of his love, the heartbreak of losing her, and the horror of what Lucy did after she changed her roots. A hole was dug, and all of this was cast down and out of sight. Circling around the tomb is a shark made out of a coffin, a thing that evokes a primal fear, something that deters anyone from diving down the chasm, a defense mechanism that makes one want to turn around and not look closer. For those who try, the shark can consume them and spit them out of Ford's mind. However, Raz dives deeper, dodging the shark to find representations of the 3 negative emotions we discussed in prior videos. At the bottom, however, he finds one final negative memory that will uproot his entire life.
Ha! Who's that?
That's your grandparents, Laszlo and Marona. They drowned in the Valermo Dam disaster, remember?
What? No! Grandpa Laszlo died there, but Grandma made it out and came to live with my father.
No, Raz, she didn't.
Ford, I just saw her today.
No, you didn't. After the fight with Lucy.
With Maligula?
She was defeated but alive. I snuck her away from the others and brought her back to the gulch. I put her in the astrolabe, one of Otto's inventions, created to make permanent alterations to the psyche. And I used it to isolate and neutralize the part of her psyche that was
A murderer?
problematic. And I had my Lucy back. But I knew the world would never forgive her, so I had to hide her somewhere safe. Oh no. I hid her among her family, Rasputin. Among your family.
No, no, no!
I projected memories and feelings on your father so he would accept her.
Except Maligula?
Yes, as your grandmother.
No!
Ford used a device intended to alter the way the mind functions in order to repress the Maligula complex in Lucy's mind and convince her that she was a completely different person. However, repression is just a form of avoidance. Despite burying Maligula, the gravestone of her presence pierces above the earth, waiting to be dug up. The astrolabe is a device made to make permanent alterations to the mind. However, from what we have seen, this isn't entirely true. Just like avoiding an emotionally charged trauma or suppressing something can make you feel better in the short term, in the long term, nothing is healed. This is the threat that acts as the overarching danger for the story, the wraith of Maligula that was only buried but never dealt with. Ford forgot about this basic principle when he used the astrolabe 3 times. If we reset back up to the top layer of Ford's graveyard, we come across a mental vault entitled Ford Cruller Cracked. It tells the story of what we just heard, but continues on. It begins with him using it once on Lucy to lock away the Maligula complex, then again to convince Augustus that his mother was still alive. What he didn't tell Raz in the previous scene is that he used it one last time, on himself, to shatter his mind into the broken pieces that Rasputin just pieced back together. He claims that he did so to protect her. Since he knew who and where she was, he would take those secrets to the grave, so to speak. But I think it was more than that. Next to the machine is some emotional baggage, one associated with the negative emotions about what he did and why he did it. His regrets, remorse, and emotional turmoil led him to perform the ultimate act to forget, to intentionally break his mind. Therefore, he would never need to feel bad ever again. The ultimate form of emotional avoidance. As mentioned in the previous episode, there is no good or bad emotions, only good and bad responses to that emotion. All of us have methods of coping with stressful times and traumas of our past. Some perform the nuclear option and turn to things like alcohol, drug abuse, or other forms of addiction. We'll cover this more when we check in on Bob Zanotto. But there are other methods of this that are less destructive. Personally, I have a habit of cleaning the house or doing yard work when the wraith of negative emotions hits me. At the end of the day, coping with a thing is simply ignoring it and hoping it goes away. That is the flawed perspective that Ford Cruller took, rather than do the hard work and truly save the soul of his love. That requires confrontation with the thing that he feared to look at. It would require him to dig up the grave, open the casket, and come to terms with the skeleton that is hiding inside. A decision that he is forced into whether he likes it or not. Nona has gone missing. She snuck away into Green Needle Gulch. Despite having her mind altered, she has an instinct about this place. She doesn't know what it is, what is buried there that she can't remember, but she follows the instinct as if it were a gravestone leading her to where something was buried. In order to keep her from digging it up, Ford takes the time to remain with her while Raz heads to the astrolabe to get it functional again. The problem is, it is covered in vines and infected with bees. In order to gain access to the machine, the final 2 of the Psychic 6 will need to be located and brought back into the fold. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and subscribe to receive updates on future uploads. If you would like to help support the channel, a Patreon has been set up and the link is in the description below. Have a great day and peace be with you all.